and recorded. For clarity, voting is only permitted by the members who are present in the room. Any member joining the meeting remotely are able to participate in the debate, but are not able to vote. Other than that, the usual rules apply. Item 1, apologies. Are there any apologies, please?
I have apologies from Councillor Neal.
Thank you. I can see the members of the committee who are in attendance, and can their names be recorded in the minutes, please? That's Councillor Guy Gilby and Councillor Roy Bailey. Item 2, declaration of interests. Members are asked to declare any disclosable pecuniary or effective interest in respect of any matter to be considered at this meeting. Has anybody got a disclosable pecuniary interest in the matter or an affected interest? Anyone? None? Thank you. Item 3, the minutes. To consider the approved minutes of the meeting executive held on the 19th of September. Are you happy to approve the minutes of the meeting on the 19th of September? Thank you. Ask all members who are in favour of approving the minutes. And I ask you to put... Oh, I need a seconder. I'll move it. Will you second that?
Leader, I'll happily second it. Councillor Bidwell.
Thank you. Can I ask all members if they're in favour of approving the minutes to put to the vote? All those in favour? Thank you. Agenda item 4, urgent items of business. Are there any urgent items of business?
No, none notified, Chair.
Thank you. Agenda item 5, overview and scrutiny review reports, enforcement strategy and child criminal exploitation. This is to be reported on by Kevin Gibbs, Executive Director of Delivery.
Thank you, Chair. These reports are presented in the name of the Statutory Scrutiny Officer. These are 2 reports which are hangovers from the Commission. So they were agreed by the Commission but were not presented to the Executive due to the election. They're now presented to the Executive for the Executive to note. It would be the normal practice for the chairs of those reviews to present to the Exec, but clearly as there's been that change, these are just for the Executive to note and to take forward as they see fit.
Thank you. Are there any questions on these? None? Can I ask a member to second the recommendations, please?
Thank you, Chair.
And I will move them. Can I ask a seconder?
Councillor Jeffries, I'd like to second these.
Thank you. I do not wish to speak on them. I think we can note them, and there are some recommendations which we can look on and make sure that they're carried through. Would the seconder like to speak?
I wish to reserve the right to speak, Chair.
Thank you. Is anyone else like to speak? No? Would you like to speak now, Councillor Jeffries? No? Okay, I've got nothing else to add, so can we ask, please, all those in favour of the recommendations to raise their hand? Thank you. Noted. Item 6, Bracknell Forest Economic Strategy 2023 to 2033. This is to seek approval for public consultation on the draft Bracknell Forest Economic Strategy 2024 to 2034, the themes and objectives and proposed action plan. It's being reported by Chris Mansfield, Head of Economic Development and Regeneration. And it's going to be... Thank you.
Thanks, Leader. Andrew Hunter, Executive Director, Place Planning and Regeneration. I'll take this report. So the purpose of the report for the Executive is to agree to consult on the economic strategy for Bracknell Forest. The Council does not, at the current time, have an economic strategy, and it's important that we seek and shape to support the economic future of the borough. The strategy has been developed in partnership with various partners, including the Economic Skills and Development Partnership, our Bracknell Business Improvement District, general businesses in Bracknell Forest and council members. The strategy is underpinned by an extensive evidence base that identifies both the key strengths and the key threats to our local economy. We've focused in the strategy on four key themes, including economic performance, business competitiveness, people, place and well-being, place, climate change, infrastructure and connectivity, and the report sets out in more detail the elements that will be explored under each of these headings. A summary document, the strategy, a detailed action plan, and all of the evidence base are available as documents to this report, and those will be the ones that we'll be consulting upon. The action plan seeks to develop and implement actions under each of the themes to improve, support and nurture our local economy. The initial focus of the strategy will be to develop our economic skills and development partnership structure, look to create more promotional material about Bracknell Forest as a business location, deliver what we call an impactful business liaison programme, and effectively monitor our business performance against the baseline of the evidence that we've put before you. The consultation will take place after the executive and will run for a 6-week period starting next week, and details of that are set out in paragraphs 5.19 to 5.21. The recommendations are as in the report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Any questions? Can I just add that the consultation on this is essential, as it's going to be we must really make sure that Bracknell residents know what's going on, because it does focus on them, on their needs. So the more it can be put out there, the better. And I think if we could have a link to all the councillors, so when they have surgeries or whenever they have anyone else, any meeting with a resident, we can put them in this direction so they can read it and see that it relates to all their needs and get a response. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll make sure that all councillors receive a link to the consultation so that they can share that.
Thank you. Can I ask for a member to move the recommendations set out in the report, please?
Chair, I'd be delighted to move the recommendations in the report.
Can I ask for a seconder, please, to second the report?
Councillor Jeffries, I'd like to second the report.
Thank you. Would the remover of the recommendations like to speak?
Yes, I would. The economic strategy is vital for to help face all the challenges that the councils have over the coming years. There hasn't been one since 2010. I'm delighted that not only do we have a viable strategy going forward, but some of the agencies around that are helping to deliver it have got some really good plans to come up. So the local skills improvement plan, which has been mentioned already, the local enterprise partnership, the Berkshire Film Office, which is very, very exciting, that is working on enticing more film production activities within the borough. We're speaking with Royal Holloway University to try and encourage them to initially maybe get students to stay here, but also to maybe get interns to work for Bracknell Forest, which would be a first. And of course, we want to work on the model that the BID has started delivering, and making sure that businesses can see a real benefit for some of the investment that is happening within the borough. We need to circulate this as soon as possible. We need to make it a mantra for every councillor, because as far as the portfolio of every executive member goes, it's all affected and all feeds into the economic strategy. So I'm delighted to move. Thank you.
Would the seconder like to speak?
Just basically to add what the Chair outlined earlier, and Councillor Bedwell, in that the engagement is key, and I really welcome this initiative and look forward to seeing the ideas that come from the people consulted on this issue, and looking forward to the end of the consultation report to review. Thank you, Chair.
I would just like to read out the bit that says a draft vision, because I think it's really important and I think it should be emphasised. By 2034, a growing and resilient economy that matches the best in Berkshire, supports, attracts and retains high-quality businesses, promotes sustainable growth in clean and green knowledge-based industries, and provides economic opportunity with good, secure jobs for our people who all have the skills to succeed. Ambitious, but so... Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
Yes, I think that vision is really, really important. It sets the tone and it sets the ambition for the borough to move forward and grow the economy and develop businesses for the benefit of all residents. So I'm delighted with that, and I look forward to getting the feedback from the consultation for being able to get it through the full council, next year, but more importantly to see the progress through the dashboard and action plan. So delighted that we have had so much good input and looking forward to get some positive results. We certainly need them.
Can I ask all those in favour to raise their hand, please? Thank you. Record. We now come on to item 7, Prevent Strategy 2023 to 26. And this is Gráinne Siggins reporting, Executive Director of People.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, Leader and colleagues. Apologies that I can't be in the room with you today, but unfortunately I have COVID, so you wouldn't want me to be present. So I do apologise. So in front of you, you have the latest Prevent Strategy report, cover report, and strategy document. It continues on from the strategy, the previous strategy, which was 2020-2023, and builds on an existing strong approach in Bracknell Forest in relation to Prevent. Just want to also highlight that there has been an independent review by the Home Office in terms of the Prevent activity, and that has been reflected in the action plan and the focus on the 24 to 27 document. The only supplementary item I just want to highlight is following comments from yourselves, but it hasn't got into the current report. In addition to the focus of training for officers being mandatory, we're going to include in the training strategy the training offer for elected members, as we've discussed in the last few weeks. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is there any member wishes to speak or ask questions, please? No. Can I ask for somebody to move the recommendation? That's 2.1, Executive approve and adopt the Bracknell Forest Prevent Strategy on page 133. Can I have someone move this, please?
Yes, Chair. Councillor Bidwell will move this.
Thank you. Can I have someone second it, please? Just shout and I'll turn it.
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Wright will second this. Thank you. Would the mover like to speak?
Only to support the report, and that I think is a very good way forward.
Would the seconder like to speak?
Yes, I can now. Thank you, Chair. The Prevent Strategy is an essential tool in combating extremism and averting vulnerable adults and children from developing violent and radical views. The Council plays a central role in keeping Bracknell Forest safe. This strategy and the actions that come out of it are an important element in protecting the population, which is why I support the motion. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? No one up there? No. Thank you. Would the mover like to wind up?
Only to say that I support the report, and that's probably all I need to say. Thank you.
Would all those in favour of the recommendation raise your hands, please? Thank you. Oops. Item 8, which is the budget update, reported by Stuart McKellar, Executive Director, Resources.
Thank you, Chair. So this report provides an update on the Council's current year financial position, as well as a look ahead to 24-25 and beyond. So in terms of the current year, I previously reported to members that we faced a difficult financial position. So a couple of months ago, we did have a predicted overspend of between £3 to £4 million. This report sets out that the actions that have been agreed and are set out in the report are having a positive impact on that. So we're currently reporting through this report an overspend of between £2 to £3 million. But I'm pleased to say that the position that's been reported to the corporate management team this week is slightly better than that still. It's up to 2.75 million. So we are gradually getting there in this year. It's still a concerning scale of overspend, but we are confident at the moment that the actions that we're taking are sufficient. We will report back to members if we feel that more robust action needs to be taken at any point during the year. In addition to the overspend on the general fund, there's also a deficit on the schools block budget, which is separate from the council's main budget. That is around £7 million this year. That's not a huge surprise. That's pretty much what we budgeted at the start of the year. But the scale of that deficit is such that we have been invited to join the Department for Education's Safety Valve programme. That's a programme aimed at working with councils with the highest deficits on their schools block budgets to work towards a balanced position over time and agree a settlement for the deficit that has accrued up to the point at which that balanced position is achieved. So we're at the early stages of the work on that, and there will be more reports coming back to members in December and January around the safety valve. Looking ahead to future years, the figures in Table 2 show a predicted gap based on a large number of assumptions, because we won't actually know the council's finance settlement until very close to Christmas. So the predicted gap is around £9.6 million over the next 3 years. I have to emphasise that that includes an assumption that the maximum possible council tax increase will be 4.99%, and that will be taken by Bracknell Forest Council, but clearly that decision will not happen until February when the budget is actually set. So it's a significant challenge for an organisation of our size. It's not that far away from the position that we're seeing in other neighbouring authorities. Slightly better, but it's still of concern. And there's work ongoing at this moment to prepare draft budget proposals which will be shared. They have been already shared, I think, individually with executive councillors. We will arrange a session for you to take stock together on those within the next month to assess what options are coming forward. It is going to be very difficult for the council to achieve a balanced position in 24-25 alone, given the scale of the gap in that year, but our reserves do allow us to manage the cash flow around that to effectively manage the transition from where we are now to a balanced position over the next 2 to 3 years. So we have the ability to do that, but it is still a challenging position that we're facing at the moment. So moving on from that, we will be alongside the council plan, which will come to the Executive and Council for consideration in November, bring forward proposals for a business change programme. A key element of that is driving savings through transforming our services that will help towards that medium-term financial position. Now, there are flexibilities which have been made available by government for councils to fund transformation work. So the proposal that will come to you in November will be asking the council to adopt the flexible capital receipts strategy, which will allow us effectively to fund some transformation costs by disposal of assets in the future. I have to say that will not be the operational assets that we rely on for day-to-day services. The council has lots and lots of assets, primarily due to its Newtown inheritance. We own things which many councils don't, which you do have options over into the future. So we'll look to use the disposals of those assets to fund the work on the transformation programme. And one final recommendation, Chair, is around the use of Section 106 funding for affordable housing to support the Market Street development, which is very, very shortly to have all the legal agreements signed. So, thank you, Leader.
Can I just make some comments on this, please? Thank you for explaining about the assets, because I was asked several times when I was doing a litter pick on Saturday of what assets we were likely to sell. So thank you very much for clarifying that that's for future consideration, really. And also the 106 money, is there to support affordable housing. And so this is what it's for. And if we didn't use this, then this project is likely to be failing because we couldn't support it in any other way.
Yes, it has been reported previously to members that the economic conditions have made that scheme extremely difficult to take forward. But given that we'll have 48% of affordable homes within the development, then the use of Section 106 funding for affordable housing, which, as you said, can only be used for affordable housing, is a sensible use in this instance.
And my last question is on 5.9.2. You say that the core schools budget, this is special grants, specific grants, is likely to be 2.3 billion. But I'd like to ask what effect this will have on the government's administrative error, they say, which is of which means that £375 million, which they expected to put in, will not be put in because they misunderstood. No, they're short because they've misunderstood, they've miscalculated the number of children that attend in schools, which means that Bracknell Forest will lose 0.9 million, that's £900,000 as a result of this. And so the increase is really not gone, it's not 2.7%, which is pretty low considered the budget and the inflation rate anyway, but it's gone to 1.9%. And will that affect the 2.3 billion that is going out? I mean, how will this, what can we do? Are they going to make up the money by the time it comes round to next year?
Well, it's an administrative mistake which was made in Whitehall, so we don't know the details behind it, but the information that we have is that they divided the total funding available for schools by a number of pupils, so it's just lower than the actual number of pupils is likely to be the case. So therefore, the amount which they indicated would be available per pupil for schools across England is too high in terms of their initial announcement back in July. So they've released clarification around having done the right numbers this time. And as you say, Lydia, that means that it's a reduced number of funding per pupil. Therefore, that equates to a reduction in the amount available for Bracknell Forest. It's still the same overall amount of money that's available, but it's how it will be allocated across the individual authorities that's changed.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Councillor Bailey, you have a question?
Well, really just a comment. I'd like initially to applaud Stuart and his team and all the chief officers for the work they've been doing on this. But we all know and have to recognise the system's broken and it's tragic and it's real misery and suffering coming our way through no fault of our own, which will impact enormously on our children and their futures. So I've already made clear my feelings to Gráinne about that we need, as a political group, to lobby like mad the government to try and get some funding back. And that's what I propose to do with Mary, to send a letter to the Department for Education, making all this very, very clear, and that we will not stand for it. It may end up nowhere, but I just wanted to make those comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. First of all, I'd like to endorse what Councillor Bailey said, and also I'd like to support the use of the 106 money for affordable housing. That's essential, I think, even given the economic climate we find ourselves in. The question I have is that use of reserves has to be taken very, very carefully. So, as I understood it, you're using the reserves to manage cash flow, but not to get rid of the reserves in total. It's an in and out. Is that correct?
It's a balance. We have reserves available to us, which we can use to balance the budget in any one year. But clearly, the more reserve you use, the more difficult you make it to balance the budget in subsequent years, because you're just deferring the difficult decisions. But realistically, there is only so much a council of our scale can do, having taken out well over £100 million in savings over the last 15, 20 years in any one year. So therefore, it's a sensible strategy. It's one that we've adopted for a number of years. We built up the reserves specifically to do it. But it's a careful balance around making sure you don't use too much in any one year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Stuart. I just wanted to ask if you could just explain a little more about the reductions in the business rates that we've been experiencing, and also just who sets those rates.
Thank you. So, through you, Chair, the rateable values for all businesses in the country are determined by the Valuation Office Agency, not the council. We collect the business rates, but we don't set the amount of rates that are payable. So what happens is that they have a big revaluation every 5 years typically, and at that point in time all the businesses will either go up or down, and it is generally a mixture. They go up or down, and there's normally transitional relief, and we collect the business rates over the 4 or 5 years of that business rates period. Towards the end of that period, what typically you see is that ratings agents will approach businesses to say, would you like us to make an appeal against the rateable value that's been assessed against your business premises? They do it towards the end of the rateable value period because they get a larger a percentage share of a larger sum, because it tends to be backdated to the start of the ratings list. So what we saw in Bracknell Forest is there were a large number of appeals submitted towards the end of the last business rates period. So in February, March, there was a large number, and they were for a lot of the big businesses in the town centre, in the Lexicon. So the Valuations Office Agency has reassessed all of those premises and found for a large number of them that they believe they should be paying a much lower level of business rates than they actually did up until that point. So the consequence of that is that we are having to repay a very significant sum, many millions, to those businesses in the current financial year. And because the rate of values have decreased from now ongoing, that will also reduce the income that we can retain from business rates in 24, 25 and beyond. So it's a double whammy. It's something that's completely out of our control, and I think the whole system is, as Councillor Bailey said at the previous item, it is broken in that it encourages the ratings agents to submit appeals towards the end of the process, because that's how they actually make their business.
Thank you. Can I ask, are there any more questions? Question, not a comment, please.
Oh, okay. No, Chair. Thank you.
And then we've had lots of comments. We should have had questions. So can I ask for someone to move the recommendations 2122, 23, 24, 25 on page 157, please? Thank you. I haven't anything else to say except thank you.
Yep.
Can I have a seconder, please?
Councillor Jeffries to second.
Thank you. My talking to this is just that it's grim news, really. I've just done a video on where we stand. We will have a lot of decisions, a lot of hard decisions to make, but we will be considering this really, really carefully. It's the October, November, December, then it goes out to consultation, and then we have it back, and then we'll be making final decisions in the February budget. So I will move these recommendations. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to reserve the right to speak.
Would anyone else like to speak? We made Councillor Bidwell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, these are challenging times. Bracknell Forest is not alone in these, but I think I'd like to reiterate that the work that the council has done to get us as far along the track as possible, and hopefully further, is commendable. And let's look forward to seeing an even further reduction in the projected end-of-year balance.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? In winding up, I'd just like to say we're not alone, as it's been pointed out, and we're in a better position than many, but it's still pretty grim. Can I ask all those in favour of the motion, please put their hand up? Any against? Thank you. We then move to item 9, which is the Future Downshire Homes Limited, and again it's Stuart McKellar, Executive Director, Resources, please.
Thank you, Chair. Downshire Homes Limited is a company wholly owned by Bracknell Forest, set up in 2016. The original intent behind the company was for it to purchase properties for use for homeless households, to avoid us having to put people into bed and breakfast accommodation, and to provide a more cost-effective solution to dealing with that. It has also purchased over the years a number of properties which are used for adults with learning disabilities, to allow them to live together in normal domestic situations with some support. Both of those functions could have been carried out by Bracknell Forest Council directly, but the main reason why Downshire Homes Limited was set up as a separate company initially was to offer the potential for it to become a housing developer over time. So it was a reasonable intention at that moment in time. The premise has worked. You can see in the report there have been reductions in the homelessness spend from the council over the years, so the DHL setup has been successful. However, the council never invested in DHL in the sense of having the resources to bring forward housing development in the way in which it was potentially envisaged at one point. So we have since then set up the Bracknell Forest Cambrian Partnership, a joint venture with Countryside Properties, who do have the skills and expertise around development, so we're working closely with them. And we now have a situation where we have just over 60 properties owned by Downshire Homes Limited, purchased by loans offered by Bracknell Forest Council, and a very similar number of properties which the council itself owns. All the properties are managed by the council's housing team, so in practice Downshire Homes doesn't give an awful lot of added value, but it does add costs because you're running two organisations. So the proposal in the report is to effect a carefully managed wind down of Downshire Homes Limited. It will be a solvent liquidation. The process is set out in quite a lot of detail in the report and in the recommendations. So Downshire Homes Limited will have to take actions, assuming that the executive approves the recommendations within this report. There are some potential financial implications depending on what the values of the properties are at the point at which the liquidation will happen. At this moment in time, the indication we have is that it's going to be very close to the value of the initial loans provided and what the properties were actually purchased for. So we're not envisaging any significant implications. However, the report does recommend authorising me to settle a relatively small tax bill should one arise during the course of the process of closing down the company. But if that does happen, it will still be significantly less than the savings that we will achieve through that process. So hopefully that's fairly self-explanatory, but very happy to take any questions.
Is there anyone who'd like to ask any questions, please, rather than make comments? Any questions? Jeffries.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffries, I just wanted to inquire actually on the number of staff employed by Downshire Homes. Do you know what that figure is?
It's a very round number, Councillor Jeffries, 0. Downshire Homes exists as a company with a single director at this moment, which is the Borough Solicitor.
Is there anyone else who would like to ask questions? Councillor Bid.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Probably got this wrong, but is there any implication, positive upside for selling or getting rid of the properties in the budget?
There's no implications around selling the properties. However, winding down the company is expected to realise savings of around £300,000, and that is partly in the current year's budget. There will be a full year effect on next year's budget as well.
Would anyone else like to ask any questions? Can I ask someone to move this motion, please? The recommendations.
Chair, Councillor Wright, I'm happy to move this.
Okay, there's 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, page 203. Is there a seconder for this?
Yes, Chair. Councillor Bidwell, happy to second.
Would anyone like to speak to this?
Thanks, Chair. The closure of the registered company Downshire Homes will help streamline the council's work and bring additional financial and time efficiencies at a time when they're so much needed. The aim to transfer the 4 short-hold tenancies to our registered provider ensures that none of these households suffer any insecurity at a time when the housing market is so pressured. The officers have put forward a clear process for the transfer and have sensible plans and contingencies for any risks encountered. And for this reason, I support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder like to speak?
Yes, Chair. I think it makes absolute sense to have one vehicle for managing properties for Borough, and the Cambrian Partnership is in place, and so I fully support this.
I do too, because it says bringing them within Bracknell Forest housing stock will reduce the costs, and I think that's really pretty important at the moment. Would the mover like to wind up?
Thanks, Chair. I reserve the right not to speak.
Would all those in favour of these recommendations, 21 to 26, raise a hand, please? Thank you. We then move on to item 10, which is Bridgewell Support Living. And this is on the, there is some pink papers included with this. And if you are to go into the details of these pink papers, then I would have to ask the press and public to leave. And I would like to keep this open if possible. So if anyone's got any information or any questions that they would like to ask on the pink papers, will they now tell us so that I make that decision? Or if during the discussion you come on to that, then I would have to ask them to leave. Is there anyone? Okay, we can continue then as open, thank you. And we're going to ask, this is, I'll just turn over, because I've messed up now. This is Gonya Siggins as the Executive Director of People to present the item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd just like to introduce Rajesh Sinha, who I've asked to be present tonight to give a technical update on the development, mindful that whilst I'm involved, I don't have the level of technical expertise that Rajesh has. So invite Rajesh to give a technical update and outline the requirements within the report and why we're coming back with this report, more importantly, Rajesh.
Thank you. Good evening. Bridgewell Supported Living Project will deliver 20-bedroom accommodation for people with learning disabilities, some of whom are living in accommodation not suited to their needs. The report consists of 4 main sections. First, the delivery timetable for the project is listed in paragraph 527. The project plan will enable commencement of service delivery from April 2025 onwards. Second, we appointed Neilcott Construction in January 2023. We have completed detailed design with them and achieved planning permission in September. Now we are in the final stages of reviewing the contractor's proposal. Additional capital allocation of 400K listed in paragraph 512 will enable the council to award a fixed lump sum works contract with Neilcott Construction. Third, approval of the revised strategic procurement plan, which is in pink, for the provider listed in Appendix 1 will enable us to procure the housing association and care and support providers through a single tender in 2 lots. And lastly, the business case has been updated in paragraph 521 and reassessed based on the current economic climate, stress tested for increased costs and resilience. The project is expected to deliver savings over a period of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Has any member got any questions? None? Thank you. Can I ask someone to move these recommendations? That's 2122, 2324 on page 217.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move the recommendations.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder?
Councillor Jeffries to second.
Thank you. Would the mover like to speak?
Thank you, Chair. The proposed changes to the budget for the Bridgewell development not only reflect the rising costs of materials and other inflationary increases, but will also help this much-needed building be more energy efficient in the long run. Bracknell Forest strives that everyone who lives here has the best possible life they can, and in providing high-quality accommodation to people with learning difficulties, Bracknell keeps this promise to one of its most vulnerable communities. This is why I'd like to propose the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to?
I'd like to reserve the right to speak, Chair.
Would anyone else? The mover like to wind up?
Thank you, Chair. No more further to say.
Can I ask all those in favour of these recommendations, please raise their hand. Thank you. On to item 11, and then again this has some pink papers associated with it. Can I ask if anyone is likely to refer to the pink papers, in which case we will have to ask the press and the public to leave? None? Right, thank you. Can I ask then, I think this is Andrew Hunter, Executive Director of Place Planning and Regeneration, to present.
Thank you, Leader. I'll make this very short. So this report seeks to approve award of contract for the 0 to 19 contract, which is the health nursing service, and agree the budget for this service. This is a 5-year contract with 2 12-month optional extensions. The 0 to 19 contract covers health visiting services, the school nursing service, and includes the National Child Measurement Programme, and these services are all mandated through the Health and Social Care Act 2012. The service is funded through the ring-fenced public health grant. The contract is also let and aligns with the Bracknell Forest Health and Wellbeing Strategy priorities, and the contract has been secured through competitive tender process, and the executive are therefore just asked to agree the award of the contract and the funding for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions, please? None? Thank you. Can I ask for recommendations, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Wright, I'd like to move them.
Can I ask for a seconder?
Councillor Purnell, I'm happy to second.
Thank you. Would the mover like to speak?
Thank you, Chair. We want every child to have the best start in life and to provide a holistic framework of support with health visiting, school nursing and additional support for those children who need it. The National Child Measurement Programme is an important tool to measure health trends as well as individual concerns. We welcome the 2021 guidance in making school nursing more evidence-based and look forward to giving every child a healthy childhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to speak?
No, thank you, Chair. Nothing to add.
Would anyone else like to speak? Would the mover like to wind up?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing more to say.
Would all those in favour of these recommendations please raise their hand? Thank you. Item 12, the occupational health provider procurement. And again, this contains some pink papers. Is there anybody likely to want to refer to the pink papers, please? None? Okay, thank you. Then I will invite. Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm looking for Paul Young, but then that's okay, thank you. Stuart McKellar to come and Director of Resources to present this for us, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is the start of the procurement process for the Council's occupational health provider. So that's a service that's made available to managers and staff across the organisation and to schools who have health issues, which we require an independent health assessment of to enable us to understand how best to manage those individuals either through their illness or on their return to work. So it's a demand-led service. It's managed by the HR team, but any manager across the council or schools can refer a member of staff to the occupational health provider. As a consequence of that, we expect that the demand for that will go up. So we're expecting to have to pay more than previously for it. But through the procurement process, we aim to secure a value-for-money contract. It's a relatively healthy market, so we shall see who bids for it, but we expect there to be several bids.
Thank you. Are there any questions? None? None on the screen? No. Thank you. Can I ask somebody to move these recommendations, please?
Chair, Councillor Wright, I'm happy to move them.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
Councillor Purnell, I'm happy to second.
Thank you. Would the mover like to speak?
Thank you, Chair. It is essential to have such services for the council staff. If they are unwell or unable to do their job, it will affect the population we serve. All councils are working under pressurised conditions in this current economic climate, and we need to ensure that there is protection they need to have healthy working lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to speak?
Nothing further to add, thank you, Chair.
Would anyone else like to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I've nothing more to say.
Can I ask for all those in favour of the recommendation to raise their hand, please? Thank you. And I think that concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you very much for all attending, including all those online. Thank you.